Lock in your domain name now. Hey, Chris Zuiker with Media Options. Help companies to acquire the raw, unfiltered version of their brand and broker some of the best domains on the planet. Check it out at MediaOptions.com. Check out my daily podcast at ChrisZuiker.com. I also have a book out there, .com strategy, you can download in the footer section. It's on both sites. But my thought today is this: lock in your domain name now. Lock it in now. When you think of the journey of a startup, okay, you think of the journey of a brand. I mean, typically what happens is that they're starting their journey out, and they're starting it out in hustle mode, okay? I talk a lot about this. Hustle mode is the mode like they're starting out, like they have this idea, they have limited funding, and truly they're just trying to see if their day works. They're truly trying to scale. They're truly trying to get their business to a viable position. I mean, even if they have, let's say, a smaller investor that comes in, maybe $100,000, that's just not a lot of money, okay? And so by default, what happens is that they choose a domain name. Typically, this is the first rodeo they're going through, and they're not well-funded. They choose a domain name that's available. And so that it's like a my or a get or a try. But it's definitely not the opportune and the raw, unfiltered version of their brand. And it's totally understandable. It's totally understandable because of where they're at. But there comes a point when that founder, that CEO, that CMO, they say, listen, it's not okay to have multiple brands owning my brand. Like, it's not okay to have this noise. Okay, I call that noise global positioning. Global positioning is when there's multiple brands all vying for the same keyword. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a list that I have here because I keep a list of just domain names and companies. So like ladder.com, for instance, there's Ladder Life, there's Ladder Capital. Ladder Capital raised $80 million, okay? And yet ladder.com is taken. Like there's all these companies out there calling themselves Ladder. There's all these companies calling themselves Bloom. There's all these companies calling themselves Arcadia. There's all these companies calling themselves Diamond. Okay, you can really pick any domain name, and there's multiple brands. If it's a good brand, if it's a good keyword, there's multiple brands that call themselves this. And the reason why is that it's just like equity, it's momentum. It's this momentum and this wind behind this keyword that they're leveraging. They're leveraging because it meets like the ethos and the mission for what they have. Okay, we call that, in a sense, brand equity. Okay. So they reach this point where they say, listen, it's not okay. I need to own this. I need to own my brand. And yet what could happen is in the very beginning, their domain name could be available, but at a certain point, it gets sold, and they never had that opportunity again to control their brand. And yet what we tell companies, like, listen, like there's a way to get into it without funding. Okay, that's a lease option. And there's some owners that we work with that are just very open to a lease option. And what this means is that you put a certain amount down, maybe it's 10,000, 20,000, maybe it's 100,000, depending upon the size of the domain name. And then you're making monthly payments, like a lease, like you're leasing a home, like you're leasing an apartment, like you're leasing this where I'm at today, that could be 500, it could be 3,000, it could be $10,000 a month. But then there's an option to buy it at the end of that lease. And there's an option to actually buy out your lease, okay, typical with any kind of like leasing thing that you do. Let's say it's an apartment, and it's $1,000 a month. You can buy that lease out. If you're already into 2 months, you can put $10,000 down, buy it out, and then you have the option to buy the domain name. Now, you can do this. We do this all the time. I typically do this with domain names that are in the 7 figures, but it happens a lot in the 6-figure range also. Not as much in the 5-figure range, but listen, it's doable. It can happen. And from a domain investing standpoint, from an owner standpoint, like some owners are just okay with that because it's called cash flow. Listen, they're making maybe $2,000 a month coming in every single month. And so for them, it's like, cool, hey, listen, I've got money coming in every single month. And then there's the option to buy, and then they get what they want. Now, there's also ways to finance domain names that typically involve maybe 15 to 20% interest rates. And you can go down that route too. We have a lot of companies and a lot of founders that will go down that route. They put a little bit of money up, they finance it. But it's like they get it. It's theirs, free and clear. I like the lease option. I like both routes, okay? Listen, I like both routes. One route, like some owners, if you go the other route, they say, listen, like I'm not open to that. I want to be paid out. We have another investment that we're going for. So if you buy it out free and clear, that's what we want. Here's the price. And so if you don't have capital, you have to go down a route like that. Domain Capital would be a place that you could do that, at least domaincapital.com. But for the sake of this, it's like the lease option, like lock it in. You can lock it in and you can get the domain name. and you can get that leverage. Now, there's a comment made by Drew in Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm going to look for this. I got to see if this video is available. But he said, listen, a domain doesn't make or break a company. Okay, I mean, you can scale, you can get big, and there's instances where companies have gotten big, they don't own their domain name. Now, they do pay a price. Okay, there's a price you pay, but like you can get big. Okay, you can get big. But what a domain says, it says a lot about an owner. It says a lot about a founder because they understand branding, they understand marketing, they understand that it does impact and will supercharge their ability to scale. They understand that it does give them leverage. Okay. And it does increase their brand equity. Okay, it's a reason why when Ring.com sold for $1 billion to Amazon, they said, hey, you know, the domain Ring.com, the domain alone was worth $40 million. Now you can tell the impact from a domain name. I say this a lot. It's like, listen, go up to, I could say I'm looking over here, just some options. Go to a working company and say, hey, listen, I want to buy your domain name. Okay. Let's say you go to Apple, just as an extreme example, go to Apple and say, listen, Apple, like we want to buy apple.com because, you know, we have this apple orchard and we think it'd be really cool. And listen, I'll give you $10 million. You think they would sell for $10 million? No, they wouldn't sell it at all because it's an integral part to their business. And now they're understanding the brand equity. Okay, they understand the impact of brand equity. It's like, they understand that it makes it like the journey simple and effortless for their customers. So of course they never sell it. They never sell it. So what I'm saying is that there's all these intangibles to owning your domain up front, and you can lock it in. And I just want to, you know, there's really the point of this message today is like, if you have the opportunity, consider the possibility that that opportunity is not going to last. It's easy to get comfortable thinking, well, hey, the domain hasn't sold. When I'm ready, we'll buy it. But what happens is that you're just pumping more money and you're making that domain name more valuable. Yeah, truly, like you're truly making the domain name more valuable because you're putting money into it, okay? You bring momentum to it. And so what happens inevitably is some company, some startup is brainstorming a domain. They say, well, hey, like that's a cool brand. Like, does anyone own the .com? No, are you serious? Hey, like let's call ourselves that. Okay, the example I use all the time is Kraken. Kraken rum launched first. I think it was like $13 or $15 million in marketing. Then comes along Kraken Crypto. I know that because I've dealt with the liquor industry before, and they just don't buy their domain names. They don't think they need it. But what happens is they put all this money, they built all this momentum behind Kraken. They didn't own it. And then comes along Kraken Crypto Exchange, like, listen, that'll never take off. Like crypto, what's that, right? And now it's this huge thing, and they own the positioning, the global positioning for Kraken. And you could say that the halo effect maybe was very small at the beginning, but now it's extreme because every time they go after Kraken, there's these people that are going to go to Kraken Crypto, Kraken.com by default. It's a halo effect. I can prove it over and over again. I can prove it with email. But more importantly, they're going to think of Kraken.com. Well, hey, isn't that a crypto exchange? And this confusion impacts your ability to scale. It impacts the effectiveness that your marketing dollars have. And so that's why you want to lock in your domain name now before it gets taken. The more you build it up, the more you're just giving another company like reason to buy it. And then what happens is that halo effect gets bigger and bigger, and then you're driving traffic. Okay, so we have some domains that get 70,000 unique visitors a day. I've seen some companies that, like it was an eyeglass company that got like 25,000 visitors a day because another company like decided to do this marketing campaign. They picked the domain name. It was very, very close to this other company's domain name. And they were doing marketing and advertising and TV behind it. And they drove traffic to this other domain. And so they called me and say, well, what should we do? Like, should we sell it to them? And I'm like, no, like enjoy it, like take it. And, you know, listen, I don't believe there's UDRP here. Okay. It's forwarded to your account. Like take it and just enjoy it and convert it and drive your business forward. It happens day in, day out. We see it happen all of the time. Lock in your domain name early, lease option. Listen, if you have any questions, reach out to me, chris@mediaoptions.com. Check out mediaoptions.com. Check out our blogs, and we can help you with this conversation for sure because we do it day in, day out. We do a lot of deals like this. A lot of the owners that we work with are open to this. And so if you're between 2 or 3 different domain names and like there's a great option and there's a lease option, like why not? Lock it in, lock it in, lock it in. Hey, lastly, hey, share this podcast up. I mean, share this video up if you found any value in it. And check out my podcast, chriszuiker.com/podcast. Also, you can download my book, .com Strategies, a book I did when I first entered into the domain industry. Kind of just a quick recap on the importance and power of domain names. You can find that both at MediaOptions.com and at ChrisZuiker.com.